sit back there today?
Oh, well, I was waiting and
That way we can get out.
Oh, we got 6 minutes yet. How you doing?
Good, good to see you.
Good. You good? Who's she? Yeah, all right. That's okay. What's up? What?
All right, way back when,
Oh.
you had a gate.
Never mind.
There's a chain.
I don't remember that one.
Mementoski was on this place, did you see her? Long time ago.
Yeah.
He used to shoot boys out.
Well, he shot that kid, he came out of the car, the gun came out, I'm like, that's all. Really? All these FBI types, not today.
Even if we had a 6 day.
Yeah. But if you had actual trail camera.
Yeah. Didn't get all the deer there. Our ring goes off, I look and there's a deer chewing our, the hyacinths.
Yes.
I do.
I've seen a lot of shootings over the years. You swell and test. You shoot the gelatin and they have a lower flour. Wow, that's great. They do, they make flour. Not much different, they still put water on it. Wet stuff on this.
Figure out how to do it. With the machine, then we'll be out of this. Once we have
And now, try 4 years in another. No, it's not the medical market. Midtown. They were getting screwed. They had problems with that.
send them to detention. Yeah, we got a big detention cell.
All the way to the seven.
Yeah. You know, we need to think.
Like they have people like. Well, there's a natural.
Okay. All right. Looks like everybody that's out there is on their way, they're in here, so we will get going. And welcome to the ward meeting for wards 2 and 5. And I am Mayor Stan Cochi, and in case nobody knows. And thank you all for being here, especially on such a nice night like this. You know, we haven't had that many good days, and so I'm glad you're here. And it's not my job to come up here and talk, because it's a ward meeting. And I want to introduce Council, oh, there's Tony. Tony Bongino from Ward 5, 4, 6. It was one of those. Yeah. I guess that's it from our council side. Michael will introduce the admin side when he gets up here to talk. We'll have a couple remarks from our council people just to get things started. And Mike will give a short presentation. And then the main reason we're here tonight is for you guys to ask questions. We have all the department heads here. So this is the time to ask. We'll take questions, criticism, and compliments. We take those too. So with that, I think I'll start alphabetically tonight. Jeff Asbury, Ward 5.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank everybody for coming out to my wife and my 39th anniversary party. So, you see the cake, I'm hoping it's in the back.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to need your help here for a second, if you could, on a count of 1, 2, 3. Could we say happy anniversary, Kelly? 1, 2, 3. Happy anniversary, Kelly. Love you, dear. If I don't make it to the meeting on Monday, send it. Somebody. All right, so I've been council representative for Ward 5 since April of 2021. Hopefully most of you know and realize that a couple years ago we had to redraw the wards. So I lost a couple streets to Ward 3. I think I lost a couple to Ward 1, gained a big section over in Ward 4. Palmetto, West Glendale, West Grace, all the way to down Turney to West Glendale, and then the side streets south of that, Mapleton down to Broadmoor, but only the north side of Broadmoor, south is Ward 4. So cards up here, you can get a hold of me anytime. Email's on there, cell phone is listed, the city phone number goes directly to my cell phone. I do have a call screener because I have a Google phone, so the first time you call, it's not going to recognize you. Leave your name, message, phone number, and I will get back to you promptly. Okay. Now I'm going to go just over some items here. Mike's going to have a presentation too, so instead of doing the good, bad, and the ugly, you're going to bring those up at the end during the discussion. I'm just going to go by department and how it affects Ward 5 at this point in time. So the Parks and Recreation, staff's doing a fantastic job with their programs down there for the young, the middle kids, all the way up to of course, the seniors. The big one that's upcoming is the Indians Youth Baseball Camp, and that's June, check the calendars, it's June 8th, 9th, I believe, and
2 sessions.
2 different
Split up
sessions.
This year in 2 sessions.
It worked out really well last year. Did I say Indians? Yeah, Indians Youth Baseball Camp. I can't break that, sorry. And they are also hiring for lifeguards for the upcoming pool season. So if you got kids or grandkids or neighbors that are interested, don't go down and apply. The building department. A lot of people this time of year don't like the building department. because they're out issuing notices for grass and weeds. But it's just a fact of life, it happens every spring, we know this. My suggestion is cut it when you get a chance, even if it's only a couple inches high, knock it down again before it rains. I got out first time last Wednesday. Grass wasn't really high, but the little pretty yellow flowers, the pollinators, they were pretty high. So I knocked it down Wednesday. I knew it was gonna rain Friday. Luckily, I was able to get back out on Sunday and cut it again. It looks pretty decent now. So I know they're not the favorite department right now, but they're just doing their job. Okay? Cut your grass, right, Tony?
Correct.
Cut your grass. Service department. First of all, I would like to thank all the members of the service department for this past winter. It was a little rougher than the past couple winters. With the salt issue, we did, in most cities in the area, ran into a salt issue. We ran low, and the salt mine wasn't really playing well with others. But they did a great job, kept the roads clear. I had something else there. Oh, chipper service. Chipper service started last month. The next chipper service is next Monday for the week. Make sure you call to get on the list. Police and fire. So, just because they're
Why are we all
close.
together? Why aren't we separate like everybody else?
Because you're safety forces. And I was gonna say, in my own opinion, we have the best safety forces in Northeast Ohio, if not the whole entire state, okay? I worked with these guys, police, for 3 years. Before becoming a council member, I was auxiliary officer. So I got to know some of the guys and the gals pretty well. And fire department, they're just great people. Visited them many times, talked to them. I honestly, I go to a lot of different cities, got friends and relatives, but I don't think you can get a better set of safety forces than we have here, so.
I agree.
Their police, fire, all of their runs have gone up year after year, and they're still providing fantastic service. I was out early yesterday morning driving around the ward, and I did notice a lot of little orange stickers for overnight parking, so I appreciate that. We'll go down to the square. The Commons, and Mike's gonna touch on this more later, the Commons expansion project is in full swing. Doing a lot of demolition right now and digging the lines for the plumbing and the wiring and all of that stuff. There's a lot of misconception out there that it's going to be a water park. It's gonna have a water feature. I believe it's like a 25 by 50. So it's a small water feature with spray going up. It's not a water park, it's not gonna be a skating rink in the wintertime. So that's underway. That should be done August maybe? So you'll see some good work going down there real soon. The events calendar has been published. Got the water bill today, and that's in there. We do have six concerts starting Wednesday, June 5th, I believe it is, every other Wednesday, weather permitting. And all the events have been published, so if you didn't get the water bill, you can go on the website, check those out. The road prep program at this point hasn't been finalized. But in Ward 5, we know the 2 or 3 worst streets, and we're hoping to get something done on at least one of those this year. So once that's made available, I will let you know. And we also have one speed table that we're going to be installing per ward, and Ward 5 is going to be going on West Glendale near Daisy. And next month or so, maybe, yeah, hopefully. So look for that. And one big thing that a lot of people are complaining about, and rightfully so, is the post office. The condition of the post office, the big pothole was as soon as you pull in and the peeling paint, and we know that our building department, the administration has been in touch with the post office, and I think they went a little higher than the local level, but they're kind of like the train people, they're really not the easiest to work with. So hopefully that gets resolved soon. And other than that, I'm going to leave it up to Mr. Salvi, Ward 2. Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
Mr. Salvi.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the annual special Ward 2 meeting. Thank you for coming. This is unique in comparison to regular council meetings because city department leaders are present to participate, and I appreciate their attendance tonight. Today's meeting is also unique as the focus of the meeting is not council voting on ordinances, but focusing primarily on residents' questions, concerns, and suggestions regarding the city. For new residents, I grew up in Bedford on Taft Avenue, where I now live. I was elected to City Council November 23 and was sworn in on January 1st, 2024. And now I have served on council for Ward 2 for about 16 months. Over that period of time, I've done my best to live up to my campaign promises to improve the quality of life in Ward 2 for residents by addressing issues most concerned to residents, especially safety. To that effect, I've done the following: bring attention and enforcement regarding speeding, illegal parking, traffic signage, and traffic light violations, individuals illegally loitering outside businesses in Ward 2, businesses failing to maintain their property, for example, the former and current owner of Bay Market, housing violations that affect one or more other resident homeowners, and closing time of Taft Park to end after-hour illegal activity. I've also continued to go door to door to visit residents at their homes to get feedback regarding concerns I'm unaware of. For example, one Archer Road resident who told me that the tornado siren on Solon Road was not working. As a result, I was able to contact the City Manager Malice, and the county to get the siren back in operation before the tornadoes hit Bedford in 2024, just a few weeks or months later. Regarding recreational activities for children in Ward 2, I am pleased the City Parks and Recreation Department will soon be installing new playground equipment at Taft Park. I've also encouraged the city to maintain Taft Park's existing baseball diamond so kids or adults can continue the half-century plus history of playing baseball at Taft Park. For recreation during the 2025-2026 winter season, I've also encouraged the city to bring back the ice rink at Taft Park. I believe most of the infrastructure remains in place and the rink could be put back in working order inexpensively. With many residents on tight budgets, this would be a free recreational activity for children and adults. Lastly, past council meetings, which include my council reports, are online via the city website. The reports will give you more detail of what I've done to address quality of life issues in Ward 2 over the past 16 months. Much of what I have accomplished would not have been possible without the cooperation of the city administration and city staff, and thank you to them.
Now, Mike Nellis, our city manager, if you'd like to come in and introduce your administration and tell us what's happening.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Appreciate you coming out, especially with it being so nice out and the Cavs playing in 10 minutes. So thank you for that. I will try to be brief because obviously we want to open it up and hear from all of you. First and foremost, I want to introduce our team behind me and not only compliment them for everything that we've been able to accomplish and what we are looking forward to accomplish, but also every single member of their team and our administration and all the employees. It's a lot. It's team. We always talk about that. We stress team, and that's how we get things done. We are extremely lean but very efficient. And with that being said, I just go across the dais here, our Service Director Clint Beller, our Assistant Police Chief, Deputy Police Chief Rick Sutz, and early congratulations to Deputy Chief. He's going to be retiring in September, so congratulations in advance for that. Our Fire Chief Brian Harding, our Finance Director Jennifer Holland, and our Building Commissioner Mike Greer. Our Parks and Recreation Director Mike Callahan was unable to attend this evening, but we'll touch on some of the highlights that are going on in that department. Just going through some quick highlights, you can see our 2024 year-end numbers. The city ended the year with cash balances over $4 million.
Blocking the screen.
Oh, I'm blocking the screen? All right, sorry. Actually, I'll stand over here. This might be a little better. Sorry about that. So the city ended the year 2024 with cash balances. Can you see that? I'm going to holler. I know. This is the third one. $4 million cash balances. We also, that is on top of our $5.8 million reserve that is in place. Healthy. All of that is with taking into account the impact that we've had from university hospitals. That was a significant loss. And that doesn't happen by accident. A lot of creative budgeting, a lot of hard work on these individuals behind me and our finance department. Speaking of our finance department, you can see here we received the 35th consecutive award for government financing. That does not happen by accident. It just doesn't. Last year we also received the state award for following an audit that we had. And there were only 4% of the government entities across the state that received that award. And that says a lot. I have to give compliments to City Council and compliments to our administration. I think we've proven over the last decade, 12 years, that we have been fiscally responsible with the public's money. When there's bad news, we let everybody know. You know, there's peaks and valleys. But we will continue to look at every scenario, and we will make the best decision. If there are changes that need to be made or not, we'll share that openly and transparently. I use one quick example, and it was a big, hot topic about 7 years ago. We were talking about eliminating a long service that we did in-house, our van service, our transportation service. We weren't talking about eliminating that, but we felt we could outsource it. We could outsource it and save money, and we can outsource it to provide a better service. If we did that, we could have a larger radius of where that service can transport our seniors or those that are disabled. And we understood that. You know, we didn't want to ultimately lay off an employee. The reality is that service costs the city north of $85,000 a year. When you talk about the van, and that's, when you replace that van, that's another $60,000, but just static, you know, mileage, employee benefits, 85 plus. We're now providing a better service with a wider radius, outsourcing that, and it's costing us about $20,000. Actually, a year ago it was slightly less because Cuyahoga County subsidized some of that through a grant. So we look at creative ways to make change if necessary. Some of our big ticket items, everybody knows the hospital site. You've probably seen this if you attended our town hall meeting. University Hospital closed in 2022. The city quickly filed litigation against the hospital. Primary reason, there was going to be deed restrictions, right? If they were just to sell that, it was not going to be sold to another medical institution. And we pushed on that. And I have to compliment City Council for taking that stance. Ultimately, we were successful earlier this year settling that agreement, or settling that dispute, I should say. Ultimately, the city will take ownership of that entire complex. That will take place, it looks like this week. Could be slightly after that. 0 deed restrictions. We can put what we wish there. There's also a $2.1 million payment that will be made to the city, and then some other smaller items in that agreement. I do want to point out a couple things. You can see the area highlighted in red. That is the medical office building. University Hospital is going to maintain a presence in there. They're going to continue to provide services, labs, doctors. They're going to stay in the medical building. They're going to lease that from the city of Bedford for 5 years, and there's multiple 5 years extensions to that. You see the green area, that is the majority of the rest of the property. And then the blue area. The blue area is the high-rise hospital building, the 4-story building that was damaged in a flood. I don't know if everybody familiar with that. It's kind of been out there. There was vandalism. Someone got into that building in 2023, and they caused millions and millions of dollars in damages. So, could it be repurposed? Possibly. One of the things that we've done internally is look at what if it can't. And we applied for, with cooperation from the Land Bank, as well as Cuyahoga County. The state of Ohio has demolition funds, and the max was $2.5 million, which is right around about what it would cost if we had to take this down. And you have to submit to the county first. Long story short, County Executive Romaine ranked our project number 2 coming out of the entire county. So it is, I could say, looking very favorably. Not anything had changed, but we're optimistic that we would get those funds if in fact we have to take that building down. You know, we always talk about we want to spend other people's money before we spend our own money. So, earlier this year, about a month and a half ago, we did issue a request for proposals that went out to many developers, other healthcare institutions, private builders. We've had some initial feedback, actually speaking with one government entity and one developer that's very interested in the site. I will say the number one comment that we received from developers was, is the city going to contribute to demolition? Have you applied for the state demolition money? You know, they're looking at it, they don't want to take something on if they're going to have to pay to get it taken down. So what we may do, depending on how these, a couple of the inquiries and proposals that we have, if they are not viewed favorably upon city council and the administration, we may wait, it may have to get taken down, and then we may have to reissue that. The goal is to find something that fits within the community. The goal is to attract another healthcare institution. I will say it is not going to be a full-blown hospital. That's just being real, telling it how it is. The model is having main campuses, having a downtown one, an east side, west side. But what we are pushing for is obviously some form of emergency care, emergency room, some location where we can take, where you can go to get care if you need. And that's our primary focus. Those questions, have you spoken to Metro? We have spoken to Metro. We continue to speak with them. I will say they've expanded in Bedford at their location. They've brought on new physicians. So they are making a concerted effort to look at Bedford in our area. Some of the other big ticket items, Tinkers Creek Commerce Park. If you've been over by Shawnee, you see the major development that's taken place there. Lakeshore Electric built a massive facility. Cleveland Tank and Supply relocated from downtown Cleveland. They built a facility within the park. Hundreds of jobs have been retained and moved to Bedford, which is great. There's a couple other parcels that are available that we'll be working to market. Have to give credit to Chief Harding. Chief took over officially in January, but he really took over in, I think it was October, November. And he's done a tremendous job. Alongside our new Assistant Chief, Tim Grody, they've hit the ground running. Some major things that they've already are having the works. The Office of Emergency Management is looking to do a train derailment exercise, kind of a tabletop exercise. They were looking at the southeast side. Chief Harding was able to coordinate that, and that's going to take place here in Bedford next month. We'll be involving our police department and our service departments. You know, hopefully that issue never arises here, but planning's, you know, crucial. And I have to compliment him for coordinating that. One of the other things next week, Chief Harding and his staff, they will be up at the high school. Prom is the 9th, and he is coordinating a number of different exercises, safety awareness exercises for the students on the 7th. So, you know, more involvement with the community is a good thing, and a lot of good things happening in the FD. One other item is our fleet. We have, if you don't know, we have a ladder truck that is on order. We've received $1 million grant to help subsidize that. but we're also going to be looking at and presenting, and hopefully it's viewed favorably by City Council, plans for a new SWAT. We're shifting our budget this year in funds that we were going to use for other equipment. We believe, and Chief Harding believes, it makes sense to look ahead and plan to replace an emergency SWAT. So we're working on getting quotes for that. Our police department, for those of you that aren't aware, we have a security camera program that started on the Auto Mile, funded by the Auto Mile, that has now moved to our pool facility, our community center, our downtown historic district, the Commons. We also have, visions of pocket parks. These state-of-the-art equipment, we talk about in a perfect world, we could, add 5, 10, 15 officers, but we also have to step back and look at best technology. And this is, the technology is phenomenal. I mean, it really is. And at best, it's a deterrent. So we are expanding that. And I have to compliment Chief Stask and Deputy Chief Sutz. We brought back our traffic unit, and there'll be some stats I'll talk about a little later on. Parks and Recreation Department, we have a number of improvements to the facilities. Councilman Salvi talked about Taft Park, but Ellenwood, the Ellenwood Community Center, we're getting a new roof that's going on, the gymnasium, both parking lots are getting resurfaced, and all that's made available through grant funding. You'll hear that often, the grants that our staff go after. We have infrastructure improvements. While we are going to talk about our road program and what we budget annually for that is the same, $400,000. We have the Union Street Bridge, that is taking place now. It will, when they get to the actual bridge itself, just for future planning, that roadway is going to be closed for most likely over a year. And that is underway. That will probably start in the fall, I would imagine, but stay tuned for that piece. Northfield Road, the bridge improvement was completed. We are also eyeing the actual roadway of State Route 8, and that is tentatively scheduled for 28-29. We need to talk about, when we talk about our streets, a couple things to point out, and we're going to touch on this during our budget process this year, is roads are more expensive. It's costing significantly more to resurface a street. And years ago, when they tell you the street would last 20 to 25 years, it doesn't. So we're running into a couple of different issues there. And we've been budgeting, I said $400,000 or $500,000 annually. What used to get us 4 or 5 streets, we're lucky if we get 2. So we're going to need to get creative, possibly increase our budgeting for next year, or look at other means to do a large-scale road program, because you can't really fall behind. I know salt capacity was brought up, and I'm not going to touch on it a lot, but I just want to point out, Clint and I have been talking about this for years now. We have to come up with a solution for our salt capacity. We have a dome. That dome holds about 600 tons. That's a few salt runs. Communities have facilities that house 2,000, 3,000 tons. Well, what does that do? Ours was built where you'd have a piler, and they would just pile it in there. No one does that anymore. So what they do is they charge us extra per ton if we want them to come out and pile it. So that's one area where it's costing us more money. The other piece is it's a guessing game. And if we go over the amount that we ask for beginning of the year, usually it doubles in price. And that happened this year. Instead of $45 a ton, we're paying almost $90 a ton near the end. If you don't go over, and let's say we're going to use 3,000 ton and we only use 2, we don't have a place to store it. So then they start charging you price per ton per month. And I think the 1 year cost us $15,000 to store it. And that's just because we don't have a new facility. And we really, just from a business standpoint, we need to get creative, we need to look at some space, we need to make an initial investment on getting an up-to-date facility where we could store a few thousand ton, because it's going to save money one way or another. And that's one of the things that we're focusing on. So we talk about quality of life and it's housing and we are going after, I tell people all the time, if you see a house on the street, call us. Most likely there's orders on it, building's been out there, but if not, call us, let us know and we'll get out there. But there's one piece at the end here that I want to kind of highlight, and Chief Stas put this together earlier this year. I shared with council. You can see some of the data, and it just shows, you know, our men and women, they're getting after it on those quality of life issues, the speeding, the parking, the traffic stops, citations. Look at the fourth quarter of 2023 is on the left, and the fourth quarter of 2024 is on the right. And I'll give one example, parking tickets, overnight parking, parking on the lawn. That fourth quarter of 2023, we issued 133 citations. Last year, we issued 407. So while you may see a car on the street, maybe they called in for permission, but you know, the overwhelming consensus here is that our men and women are out there, we're tackling those issues that you brought to us. Speeding issues, the high traffic areas. These gentlemen and women, they know the streets. They know the long roads that are the cut-through roads where speeding is more prominent. And that's what we've done is City Council has supported the purchase of 6 speed tables. We looked at this, there's pros and there's cons. Other communities have done this, we've read their pilot reports, and the guidance of PD, they've identified some of the streets where there is some speeding that takes place. And we're going to strategically place those speed tables in those locations. Now, you'll see, I do want to point out, there's the sign that we move around town that shows the speed. Everybody's seen it, I'm sure. You've probably seen it where it's dark, and you say, oh, it's not working. Well, it's working. It's just not showing you what you're driving, but it's collecting accurate data. We've moved that around all over town, and in some cases, absolutely, there's some speeding. There's been other streets where I've talked to some residents, and they're like, they're doing 65 down this street, I'm telling you. And you look at the data over the month, and no one's gone over 36 miles an hour. So, you know, that shows accurate data, like, you know, maybe that speed table is not warranted on that street. But needless to say, this is where we're going to start, and those will go up this year, and I do believe there'll be some improvements. Councilman Salvi mentioned Taft Park. You can see we are replacing the structure at this park along with some other minor improvements. This was made available through a grant that our department received. We actually just brought on a new staff member this week, actually today he started. So there was a slight delay on removing some of the other items, but we'll be getting into that soon. Bedford Auto Mile, Bartlett and Rockside, you can see the rendering. The city had to do some initial work at this site before Jay Honda can begin the new dealership. We've completed that work to the retention area that we were responsible for, and Jay has given us all signs that they intend to have shovels in the ground this year, and this new Honda dealership will be opened up next year. Our TLCI initiative, we received a grant about a year or so ago, and this was a lot of public meetings. It was a planning grant, connectivity, how do we connect the city's assets, be it the parks, downtown, community center, this complex, the library, a lot of public input. What we've done is we went ahead and we applied for over $500,000 in grant funds to start with phase 1. And phase 1 is looking to connect our downtown area off of Willis, where the Commons is, and that's going to connect down to Viaduct Park. Also looking at establishing a sidewalk, pedestrian walkway down Taylor towards Union. Right now there's no walkway there, so that's looking to get put in, as well as, if we're successful with the grant, as well as some improvements to the crosswalk in the downtown district. And that is,
I'm sorry, can you shift to your left?
no problem. So those, yeah. So those are just some simple renderings. The TLCI, you know, in order to really have a chance at the grants, you have to go through the planning process, their planning grant, and we did that last year. So now we have a document that we can actually submit for funding request. And our funding request now has been submitted to the state of Ohio, and we will hopefully, you know, fingers crossed, we'll be successful in that. It was mentioned, Councilman Asbury, our Commons project, that is underway. The majority of the work, just to correct myself earlier, the majority of the work will be done early summer, most likely June, July. The large trellis, which you can see on the bottom left, the swing, as well as the top left, the pavilion, that is all subject to being provided from the manufacturer, and they expect that to arrive in August. That's why we're giving an August completion date, but the majority of that work will be completed earlier this summer. I think it's going to be a great asset to our downtown area. We always talk about, how do we think outside the box and improve on some of our greatest assets, right? Obviously, the first is the public, each and every one of you, but it's also our downtown, it's also the metro parks, and how do we connect all that? There is and I've said this two meetings, and I keep forgetting to get the exact stat, but Jen, and I forgot to introduce you. I am sorry, Jennifer. Sorry, Jennifer Kuzma in our development department. Jen also wears a hat of executive director for the First Suburbs Consortium, which is all of the inner ring suburbs of the city of Cleveland. Jen uses a stat in a lot of our grant applications, and this grant that we applied for, along with the connectivity grant, we received strong letters of recommendation from the Metro Parks, from NOACA, from County Executive's Office, but she touches on the amount of people that utilize the Bedford Reservation. You'd be shocked. I wish I had that in front of me.
I want to say it's 1 million.
It's a tremendous amount of people, and we use that stat, if 1% of those people make their way to downtown Bedford, and that 1% spends $10, it brings in an incredible amount of money. And how do we make that connection? There's no connectivity about that. You see that going on in downtown Cleveland now, Irishtown Bend, all of these things, and it's to make those connections. In the metro parks right now, it's separated from the downtown. Even though it's adjacent, it's separated from rail as well as Tinker's Creek. So how do we make that connection? And that's what we've been focusing on. Some of our strategic land acquisitions we've done for that reason. Looking ahead as we wrap up, you'll see our partnership with the Land Bank. That is both residential and commercial. They're tremendous. They've helped provide demolition funds. We're looking at a piece of property on Northfield Road that sat vacant for decades, $100,000 in back taxes, condemnable, and the Land Bank really stepped in. They were able to get that property over to the city and provide 75% of the demo cost, so we'll be working to clean that space up. But you could also see some of the other things that I had already kind of touched on. The one other, I do want to mention the last item, wastewater in our NFA study. For those of you that don't know, we've been talking about this for a couple of years now. The Ohio EPA has requested that we go through our annual permit process. We have to do it every 5 years. And, they want to see a significant amount of upgrades and improvements at the plant. That's just what they want to see. They want to avoid overflows. You talk about those high rain, those impacts. We may have a dozen overflows down at the plant a year, and they want to see that single digits, almost down to 0. The one thing that we've pushed back on is when Bedford was constructed, it was a combined sewer system. Storm and sanitary was one sewer. This is a community that was not built 50 years ago. We're talking hundreds of years ago. And while we separated those, it's impossible to get a complete separation. They would acknowledge that. So what we did is we went through what was called a no feasible alternative analysis. That's the NFA, which you see here. How do you eliminate any bypass? How do you eliminate an overflow? Well, the city could replace every single sewer in town. That's not feasible. We could make every resident replace your lateral, because that's not feasible. There's a lot of infiltration that comes into those areas. So we've gone through that. We're looking at a long-term plan. The EPA would love to see a 10-year plan. I'm going to be careful about what I say because we're recorded and it's negotiating. but I think we're gonna propose maybe like a 40-year plan to improvements. But we're gonna be finalizing this, and we're going to be presenting it to the EPA in the coming weeks, and then we'll be negotiating. You do not take a hard stance here. We need to be flexible, because what we don't want to have to do is we don't want to have to negotiate with the federal EPA. I think we'll come to an agreement, but that agreement's going to entail significant improvements to our wastewater facilities. And obviously, there's a component in what that looks like on rates. We may have to look at how does that compare to our sewer rates. We did freeze our water rates last year, if you recall. We did not put an increase there. But we're going to be putting together a proposal and presenting that to City Council, like I said, in the next week or so. I do want to point out one thing. We've been doing some research on rates. We're working to get information from Regional Sewer District, and we'll have that to present to the public. I believe it's in the 80s for a minimum bill every month. I won't name the other community, but we found some data from another community very close, adjacent to us, whose bill is in the 80s every month for a sewer. Our bill here is in the 30s. I think it's actually 31. So we are significantly low, and that's a good thing. We've done, but the time has come where we need to look at addressing those things. Especially when we deal with our permit renewal with the Ohio EPA. So there'll be more information for that to come. I apologize, it went a little longer than I had hoped for, but just wanted to touch on some of those hot topic items. And I will shut this so we're not blinded, and let the mayor open it up to questions.
Thanks, Mike. As we usually do, simple ground rules. Everybody will get a chance to ask one question. Our representative is here. You snuck in on me. Would you like to stand up, introduce yourself so everybody knows who you are?
Darnell Burr, State Rep, District 22. Thank you.
Thank you for sneaking in.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Good friend of the city. Anyhow, we'll have one question, then if there's time, you can have a second question, and we'll get started. Like I say, we have department heads, if you want to ask something specific to them, or we can handle it, we'll see how that goes. So, first question.
Piece of cake.
Okay, thank you all for coming.
Can we possibly, please get the street crew to do some patching on Archer Road? It's getting, the potholes are becoming caverns, you can't even ride a bicycle down the side of the road without falling in.
I've seen a couple.
There's a lot.
They've been
especially
out
on the bottom half.
all over town doing it, and unfortunately, there's so many, because it is winter, we're really rough on our roads. Want to
No,
touch on that, or Clint? did you
I'll
wanna-
just-
We're out patching now, we're hitting the main roads first, obviously. Archer Road. We'll get there, it's gonna take a little time, but there's a really bad hole that needs to call me, give me an address. I'll gladly get that for now.
One of the things that the asphalt plants just recently opened up too, so it wasn't something that we were able to get to last month. Once they open up, we get after it, and obviously I'm sure that street and every other one's on the list. There is one, I did want to kind of give a compliment. I know it was mentioned, our Public Works and the Service Department, but I also want to acknowledge our Water Department this year. The winter was rough. I think we had the most breaks than we've had in 12 years that I've been city manager. It was a lot, and they did a really, really good job. And they were out and they made those repairs quickly, which is appreciated. So.
There's a lot. One after the other. You got a question?
Real quick, I moved here, May 5th will be our 1 year.
Welcome.
Happy to be here. Want to give Jeff a shout out. Your social media presence and answering questions and dealing with everything is awesome. I love seeing that. Parks and Rec Department, I have a 2-year-old daughter. We're at the Todd lot, over by the Giant Eagle behind the church there. Someone burnt a hole through the slide, called the Parks Department. By the time I was done pushing my daughter in the swing, they were out, caution taped it off, had a game plan to get it fixed. I'm pretty sure they replaced that already. Haven't been back, but want to give a shout out. I know a lot of people just have complaints, but want to give credit where credit is due. This one's kind of, I guess, for the police force. We live in the middle of Columbus, between Bartlett and Northfield. The amount of lunatics passing buses, 50, 60 miles per hour, it's a school zone. And I know like staffing and everything like that, but having like any kind of police presence in the parking lot there or anywhere around it, like I've almost gotten creamed by people passing over the double yellow. Like I can't even pull out of my driveway safely, like with my daughter in the backseat. So just one area that I don't know if it's on your radar or anything like that, but I know it's people jetting over to hit over to 480 and 271 and bypass everything.
Just
But
started
it's-
our traffic unit about a month ago, and he's been in the school zones hard, so you'll see him.
Cool.
Just say hi to Vinny.
Okay, we can use it, we can use it.
And that, and as Deputy Chief mentioned, that traffic unit, while our officers have always been out there, now what we've done is we have a dedicated unit solely for that. Solely focusing on those high impact areas, the school zones. As Rick mentioned, that started earlier this month, and I know they're gonna do a tremendous job, and we'll make sure that's one of the locations.
Yes.
It seems like the budget, the road budget seems to be under control pretty much, so I guess this would be for Clint. Is there any way we could, use some of those monies to get these sidewalks, neighborhood sidewalks straightened up? Coming from a person who's got 3 titanium pins in her knee because a fellow broke my kneecap on one of the sidewalks. I just wonder if maybe, because they're so uneven, and, we're putting a lot of,
So one of the things that we've been doing is we budgeted about $50,000 a year for sidewalks. What we do is we look at the roadways. When we're doing a street, that's when we typically look and we'll walk those sidewalks on that street and put together a road program, or a sidewalk program for that. And we'll probably keep to that model. And again, right now, I don't know which streets we're going to do. One of the things that I'll touch on is the last couple of years, we were only able to do two roads because they were so big. Broadway was massive. That cost the city about $2 million, and we budget $400,000 a year. Even though it's a state route, we have a percentage that we're responsible for. And last year, we did Turney Road, and that was a significant project. This year, we're hoping to get some of the more side streets, and we'll look at walks. I mentioned the whole budgeting piece where, I don't know where we'll be at later this year when it comes time to budgeting. In a perfect world, we'll be able to increase that 400,000. Maybe it's 500 or 600 next year, but we need to start looking at that. The other piece that we're gonna need to look at is, and I talk about, the city may look to borrow funds for a large-scale project. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we're going to need to issue debt, right? We are in a we're in a good position, a very good position when it comes to our debt. We have a significant amount of debt that's falling off. So now is the time to kind of look ahead over the next 2-3 years and proper planning. So I mentioned a ladder truck. We got $1 million grant. Well, it costs like, what, $2.5 million for a new ladder truck. So we know we're gonna have to come up with $1.5 million for that. Well, every time you go through a process of issuing debt, it costs you about $200,000. So you don't do it every time you need a small amount. You look at a large, okay, what are some things that we know we have to address? If it's some wastewater improvements, if it's a ladder truck. We know a lot of our city-owned parking lots are in really bad shape. They haven't been touched in 20, 30 years. Our municipal lot, the pool parking lot. So we don't want to use our road money on that. We want the road money used on your streets. So when we combine these, we may be looking to issue debt and say, okay, we may need to add some more money into that for a road program. And we did do that in 2010, 2011, where we did about a $2 million road program for that. So there's some options, but we need to start having those discussions with city council soon, because $400,000 a year, like I said, doesn't get you very far anymore, and those roads aren't lasting like they used to last, so.
I forgot I wanted to add two comments too. One for Clint also. We live on dead end. I do appreciate the way you guys are taking care of the snow, especially during the snow that comes like, you wake up and it's green grass and the next day you've got, and so living at a dead end isn't always the, greatest thing. So I appreciate, I know Kevin does. I know Kevin does because he's got that work truck that, back out to the guardrail and thank you. And Mr. Salvi, thank you so very much. There was a dead end sign, it doesn't say dead end, no outlet, that's what I'm gonna say. The no outlet sign was gone, it was there and then it was gone.
We hadn't really noticed.
And I didn't even know when, but it has really, again, being on dead end isn't really the best place to be. It's nice, but it has really done a tremendous job at, because people come in and our driveway is like this long, so, at least turn your headlights off if you're gonna pull in because it literally lights up the house. Thank you for getting that stop sign, or the no outlet sign replaced.
We've noticed a reduction
really
in
has
traffic, and it's where our driveway is located seems to be that easy turnaround.
Yeah, you were just,
So when So when they hit it, because I know there are still some GPS maps that show that road going through to Archer.
And thank the city workers for doing that too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure. But anyway, it is a big help, so, thank you.
Well, I would talk about the traffic table that you're gonna put on Archer. It seems we get more speeders on Taft from High to Wellman, and, you have the park there too, the kids in and out of the park. It just seems it would really benefit more on Taft.
And I didn't pick
We
I didn't pick the streets. It wasn't because I live on Archer, no.
We were just talking about, because, maybe it slowed them drug dealers down too a little bit.
Yeah, they're speeders on every street. That's the big problem. By my house, it's a big sweeping curve, you do 30, even if you do 35, it's no big deal. I hear them squealing their tires because they're doing it, and they have to hit their brakes before they hit to go back the other way past Wellman. It's all over. I wish we could put them on every street.
Okay, there's a white Charger that comes from Archer. He doesn't stop at Wellman, and he doesn't stop at High. And there's been times they haven't stopped on Taft, and someone is crossing the road, and the cars are ending up in people's front yards.
It's a white car with a black stripe over the truck.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a Charger.
I've seen that car. I think he lives on
Archer, it was right on Archer.
And there's a few more that do that. And they don't even slow down.
No.
You hear
People,
them coming, so you know.
they just don't seem to care anymore.
They
No,
don't.
the signs are only for the people that want to do legal stuff.
That's why
It's not for them.
we feel it would be better on that street because the cars going the other way are getting broadsided.
Yeah, there was a study, like I said, I didn't pick the streets. No, anybody say it was, so, and it'll be studied, they're gonna look at them all the time on what's happening with them and either expand the program, you get more of them. We'll all study that. Yes, sir, in the back.
You say it started off with compliments, so I moved out here in '97, rented for 4 years, and purchased in '01, and very happy with the services that the city's provided. Police, fire, even though I don't have to use none of you guys, but roads and all that. I mean, almost gonna sound like a progressive commercial, sound like your parents, see it, I live at the Southern Road, and I see it, I hear it, you know. I'm a retired Beth Ice cop, but what we used to do, when we had like Harley Ferrari night or something like that, we would park a car at an intersection or somewhere where we had a problem. Nobody's in it, but nobody wants to make eye contact with a cop when you go past, kind of, you know, but that can kind of be a deterrent, you know. My biggest thing is a question about, you answered it a couple months ago. That policy or whatever that, the situation from Gray Street to Columbus, where you have to go into the right lane to get into the left turning lane.
Yeah.
I see so many cars just disregard the stripes, and I'm looking like, where's the cop when you need it? No offense. But they just.
It's a ward meeting.
You said it was part of to get the money.
Yeah, well, that was a ODOT project.
Right.
So even though any ODOT project, state roadway, the city's required to, local community has to contribute 20%. We challenged that because over the 25 years, we've had to do a number of improvements. So one of the things that you can do is when you challenge the state, you provide evidence. Like, hey, in 2008, we did 500 feet of roadway and water work. So we said, well, we'll pay 10, we settled on 15. That's why it came to so much money. We still have to contribute. Even though we contributed, it was almost a $4 million project. It was, state did that. And there's certain requirements on the widths of lanes. And where it used to be the turning lane, I think, they eliminated a couple of different turning lanes because it shrunk the widths of the lanes down and it wasn't per ODOT specs. So that's why they striped it the way they did. We understand some of it doesn't kind of, so, you know, we may, when the time comes over and it has to be restriped, maybe we'll make changes to that, I don't know, we have a state, someone here, I don't know. Don't cover your ears, state rep. But we questioned that, but the reason behind it was, that was ODOT, they laid out that traffic pattern, and a lot of that had to do with, if it was left the way it was and you had that turning lane and 2 lanes, the widths of the lanes were too narrow and they didn't meet state specs. And if the state's spending money on it, they must be ODOT specs, and that's why it was.
But it's only 2 lanes, right? It's a turning lane and a straight lane.
Yeah.
Correct,
So it's down from 3 to 2.
correct.
So how come you couldn't?
They widened
Because they wouldn't be 2 wide enough lanes. They had to
for
be
those
so
other
wide.
2 with the turning lane. I understand what you're saying, and I understand the whole.
This is all the new specs. Back before, we could have the 3 to 2 straight and a turn lane.
No, I'm saying if you had one to go straight and one to turn, that's enough, that's not wide enough for 2?
That would be wide enough, and you're also talking about where they have the paint marks coming out, and some of that is to control traffic patterns. We did not set that, trust me. We
I just see
questioned
so
it.
many people just disregard it,
Yeah.
going straight to the turning lane and sitting in the corner lines.
The same's one to speed and ignore speed limits and all the other stuff.
It was at 5 Points and the West Grace were the ones that we initially questioned,
Right.
and it's probably the ones you're referring to.
Right, yeah, those are the ones,
Yeah.
on Broadway.
Yes.
Right.
I start off with a compliment. Jeff, you saved me sitting in traffic on 271 yesterday with his update. We were coming back from Columbus and you said that it was shut down. So I was like, great, we gotta get off the highway. And this is a really minor thing, but the crosswalk by the US Bank that no one ever pays attention to, except me, I swear, so people can cross. Is there not a camera or anything there to tell people you have to stop? I mean, the blinking lights.
Yeah.
That is,
There's not a camera there. But one of the things that came up, as I mentioned in that TLCI study, was improving the crosswalk. One of the things that has been recommended is, you know, when that was designed, it was put the signs up and the flashing lights and people will know.
don't pay attention.
Well, they're all the time. And that's actually, people just get used to it. Well, they're on all the time. They're on all the time. And if you look at some of the communities, some of the crosswalks crosswalks that have been updated now are, they're actually activated by a button, and it's like strobes that go off. We did get a quote, Clint actually obtained a quote from our traffic lighting company. It's about $30,000 to make those upgrades, but we're looking at having those included in that grant that we applied for.
I just think it's terrible how people can't, like, you'll sit there and 4 cars will pass you up, and these 4 people will be standing there. I'm not gonna complain about that house, but garage.
Well, as you know, I live on Lamson, and we have a brick street, and as, you know, when you think about all the repairs that all these other streets are having, it's too bad that more effort wasn't made to saving our brick streets, because we haven't had any repairs in 25 years. I'm just making that comment, but I also want to know, what can be done with neighbors that don't want to take care of their trash in the right way? Like, they don't take their trash cans back in, they leave it on the sidewalk for days and days. But one in particular decides to put their trash cans on their front porch. And I don't live near these people, but I tell you, if I did, I would be really upset. Is there any law on the book that says you gotta take your trash to the back?
Yeah, answer that. I believe the ordinance states that the trash cans actually have to be put on the side or the back of the house.
And when we got those new cans, everybody just parked them in front of their garages or whatever, and
But putting them on your porch?
Is it next to their
Do I
refrigerator
have,
on the
I mean,
porch? Is it next to their refrigerator on the porch?
couch? Couch. Should I write the landlord? Should I write them and say, hey, tell your tenants to get their trash off the porch?
yeah, if you know who it is, like, but don't approach them, don't accuse them, a letter wouldn't hurt.
Take a picture.
I went out there, I drove by there a couple weekends ago. At the time, it was empty, and it was very difficult, I'll be honest, when it's empty, you could barely see it. There's certain laws about you can't enter people's property. So if you could barely see something, I'm just gonna be honest, again, telling you how it is. If you could barely see something from the street, and we issue a citation, probably gonna get thrown out in court. I mean, I'm just being, or, you know,
But if you're
but
smelling-
there's
if you're
other,
smelling it,
there's other things that we can do to try to remediate that. And again, I don't wanna, you know,
if you want to sit on your front porch in the summer, and you have to smell that,
Yeah, why would you do that? Plus they gotta drag them up the steps, right?
but I'm familiar with it, and, yeah, we'll see what we can do to remediate. But there's certain, like I said, there's, yeah.
Yes, in the back.
I live on Train Road. Happily decorated, it's wonderful. But on the west side, I have a vacant house. The dead trees are stacked up in the backyard. On the other side, a young man lives, and he has dead trees stacked up in his backyard. I eventually put a fence around my whole backyard.
Did they fall? Are they falling?
Yeah, they fall into it and they just stack them up. One has a wiggle arm over there, and he has, on the other side, there's 2 of them, and the house is empty.
What's your address, ma'am?
361 Train Road. It's Ashbury Road, but he's been to my house, he's seen my.
Do we have permission to enter your property?
My house, anytime.
Okay. And I only say that because, again, if there's something in the backyard, we can't enter. Like, you may see it, but if we can't, we can't, you know, but if we have permission, we'll be, if you see someone roaming around your backyard.
Around my backyard, because my
If-
neighbor approached me about things.
Sure.
He called the city on it. So I put a fence around my backyard, so he has to stay on my yard. It's all right, I call the city all the time. Mike knows me by my first name.
What's up the ordinance, for noise, loud music, stuff like that?
It's, I don't know how many decibels, but
It's so you're not disturbing the quiet of the neighborhood.
During the day too?
Because we called, there's a neighbor in Northfield that
in the winter, and we have called many times. His music is so loud that we can hear it with the doors closed. But we were outside the other day, and they said that it's not in effect until like 8 o'clock at night.
You live on McKinley, so we're
And the
straight
police
back.
did come, I gotta give him credit, because he had to see how loud it was. It was loud, I mean, it was really loud, and it's down more towards Taft on Northfield, and I live on McKinley. But it's always happening. I don't know what could be done to stop him.
Well, we call it in.
We tell them every time, you just gotta call when it's happening, and if we can hear it.
And
we're
we
gonna
have,
deal
but
with
I mean, it happened last year, I mean, I don't know how to stop him, really, it's just keep
Well, it
calling
happened
the
last year, and a
cops.
lot of times they never came.
Well, I don't know, it's
it.
just.
No, we come every time you call. It goes right into Chagrin Valley Dispatch, and they send us, and there's always an officer sent,
I-
we check it.
I
You
will-
may not see them, they may go a different way than you're looking, but they go. Because the lieutenant checks the reports every time to see what officer went.
And I'm sure that you know who this is, I mean, because it's been,
I don't know.
We
I mean,
can
but I'm
check-
sure the police got.
Yeah, they're in the reports.
We could check and see if we've spoken to the individual. I used this one story, and it was a couple years ago, and there was a gentleman, he called, I think it was like 9 times, and he was upset, he lived in an apartment complex, and the gentleman behind was blasting his music. And when our officers, and the training that they go through, de-escalation training and just, communication, it's tremendous. And it was like, well, have you talked to him? No, I don't know, he just moved in like 6 months ago. So our officer walked over there and says, hey, listen, you're disturbing everyone, that it's loud. Had no idea, moved here from another state, actually walked over, apologized. Now those two are like buddies. He lowered it, and our officer was there at the time and was like, let me know what number I can turn it up. And so they did a good job, so maybe we need to find out, one, did we
I don't know.
communicate with them?
Steve, I think you know who.
Maybe we did,
Talking
maybe we,
about on Northfield, that, well, maybe you don't.
maybe we did, maybe we didn't, but we can look at that. I use that as an example of,
I mean, I know the neighbors are afraid of them, and they don't always call, so. There's that.
I mean,
But
it can always
it's
remain
loud,
anonymous,
it's
so
loud.
for someone to,
Because I can hear music, I'm okay if it's not, crazy, but this is like, he's like 5 houses or more down, and it's like he's right in our yard. It's just disturbing.
we
It's
can,
not.
we'll look and see if we've actually communicated with him.
The cop was there, I don't know what his name was.
White was there or something.
What day?
Last week,
Just this last week.
Yeah.
He did walk over, it was a day where there was a pileup on Broadway, because he had
Okay.
to quick leave to go there.
we'll check on that.
He did go, but it's like a continual thing.
We'll check and see if we were there, if we spoke to him, but I will say, if you hear it, call us.
Yeah, I will.
Call us and we'll work to address it.
Yeah, big
Because
problem.
we have to be able to, like he said, they
They
gotta.
have to see it, yeah.
I understand.
Big problem now is people on their motorcycles.
Oh,
You hear them coming from a mile away. It's like,
yeah.
did you,
Another thing about Chagrin Valley, I've called several times, and I have to argue with them that I live in Bedford, not Bedford Heights. I even went and talked to Marty Stempel because I had a kid bleeding on my porch. They sent the engine, and if they use like Garmin or something, my house, it shows that I live at Steve's house. So they can't go by that, they have to look at the addresses on the houses.
yeah, you can double check on that.
So they sent a Bedford engine and a Bedford Heights squad. And then when they got there, they didn't even touch the kid, they poured a bottle of water over his head and said, if we transport you, you have to pay for it.
No.
That's what Bedford Heights told this kid. They didn't see if he had a concussion, his blood pressure, or anything. They just poured a bottle of water on his head. And it's because I worked on Rockside, at 18200 Rockside. They told me I was in Bedford Heights.
there are different billing practices with the other communities that come into Bedford. We don't always have the ambulance available in our own city. So normally the engine goes as the first responder to offer care until a neighboring community can send their squad. And I don't know offhand what their billing practices are. I would think that definitely with our crew on scene, that if somebody needed to be transported, that our guys would step in there and, make that happen.
Police
But
officer that showed up and took the kid.
arrested the kid, or?
No, they took him to the hospital.
I'll have to look into that, because that's not our practice of,
This was like
police
2
officer.
or 3 years ago. But every time I call them, they insist I don't live in Bedford Heights. I don't live in Bedford.
What's your address, ma'am?
486 Taft.
Okay.
And like I says, if you're looking at any kind of electronic road thing, my house is at Steve's house. And that's where the engine sat.
Yes.
Hey, how are you? First of all, the cats are winning.
Let the Guardians know this.
Actually, it's a blowout, it's 45-19.
Thank you.
Secondly, is Bedford still involved with the PUCO? I remember, we still may do it, and I'm not sure. We used to have like a consortium or something where the city of Bedford was involved with the electric.
No,
We're
still
doing
are.
that?
Yep.
Okay, I was just wondering, because my electric bill went up.
Yeah,
so
they do
high.
electric and gas now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It
it's,
went up so high, and I wasn't sure if we were still with that.
yeah, they're the most even. Sometimes they're not the lowest, but you gotta watch, and which brings me to a point, because the utility people are the worst, coming and knocking on your doors. They have to be registered with the police department, and
We got one.
we have one person that is registered in town to solicit. So if anybody comes to your doors, first you ask them, can I see your permit from the police department? And if they don't have one,
I did not know that.
oh yeah, every time they come to my door, it's, oh, nice to see you, let me see your permit, and they hold up their ID from their company.
So what they like to do, and we've seen them do it, they like to come in and say, I'm from the electric company or the gas company, I need to see your bill. Do not show them your bill. Because once they have your bill, they have your information, they're gonna try to switch your stuff. Just tell them, no, I just called the police because you don't have a solicitor permit, and they're going to.
Is that for everyone? Because there was a guy that walked up to my house and said, we're checking houses for aluminum siding, and he tried to hand me a card.
Same thing.
Same thing,
Okay.
he's gotta have a
The
solicitor.
only ones that can legally go door to door without a permit is religious and political.
And the road thieves like to say they're looking for trees to do work to, they're looking for aluminum siding.
Okay.
Anybody tries to get in your backyard, you call us, we'll find out who they are.
Thank you.
Somebody else that hasn't had a chance, yes.
I have a serious problem, and I want to know who, okay, the problem is, you came out and saw it. My neighbor has 2 dead trees in the front yard, and I've been here now 3 years. Those trees are dead, so they're right on the property line. She refuses to cut the trees down, and she stated to me, she's not gonna cut them down, because it's gonna make my property look nice. So she did a survey, and you know what I'm talking about. She did have a survey done to prove that the trees were on her property line. I could care less about the survey. The trees are like sitting in my front yard between the two of us. But when the man came out and did the survey, I sat and watched. He had put the sticks on the inside of her trees, so which means the trees would be on my property. When she got there, he put the sticks on the other side to make the trees. So I don't believe her survey was done honestly. But who would come out to tell her those trees are dead and they need to be removed?
So a couple things. One, as far as the disputing of the survey, I mean, that's a civil matter. You'd have to deal with either the law department or the court to dispute her survey, you probably would most likely have to then pay to get your own survey and then dispute that. As far as the trees, we can have our arborist take a look at them, and if they are in fact deceased and a hazard and could cause bodily harm, then what would happen is our arborist would notify our building department, and then we could put the resident who has the deceased tree, if it's fully deceased, on notice that they would have to have it removed. And then it would be on them, if they choose not to, then they would have to deal with that and possibly end up going to Bedford Municipal Court. But, you know, we can take a look at that. I will say, there's many instances where the trees, we go out there and they are dead, and we have to issue someone a letter. There's also equal amount of instances where our arborist says, a tree's not dead, it needs to be properly pruned. It's going to, you know, bloom later this summer, so it goes one of the two ways.
It was in the same condition when I moved there.
And very well, I only give both sides.
I mean, to make matters worse, the house is empty. She's just being nasty. The house is empty. So I'll pay to cut, they little dead shrubs. And he's came out and seen them, the councilman. But.
Yeah, if you wanna come up after and give your address, if you don't wanna give it now.
Oh, he knows where I live.
Can you give the address and I'll have the arborist look at it?
Okay.
And the other thing is, if it's on the property line, a lot of times the responsibility falls on both parties.
I will make sure you get that address.
Yep. With the Taft Park, that's awesome. I take my daughter there all the time. When I was talking to the Parks and Rec guys, they were saying that with the updates to the little micro playgrounds, this is gonna sound crazy, they're not including swings. Like, anyone who's been a parent, like, kids are addicted to swings. You go to any park with swings and there's a freaking line on nice days to get on them. And I understand because the mulch area for safety, it has to be, if it's X high, you have to have so much security area. All I can do is stress is like, please put swings back. I know those crinky, squeaky, horrible swings that are there right now. I would rather have that than no swings. So coming from a parent, and as you guys do these improvements to other parks, not to sound rude, but maybe talk to some parents and what kids want, because putting in a park without a swing set seems ludicrous.
So, and we're gonna work to have swings at the location. I will say a couple things. We send our staff, what might not have been done decades and decades ago, our staff have to get, they'll be certified parks and playgrounds. There's certain requirements, when they were putting in parks 25 years ago, they put the swings and they would surround it with a concrete curb, so the mulch would stay in there, so it's nice. Complete screaming no-no in today's standards. And when you get a grant, they're gonna say, you got a problem here, because this is against what they call the fall zone.
Sure.
So while temporarily, we're gonna relocate that structure anyways, the playground structure is gonna kind of be relocated to another area. The plan is to have new swings there. First, we wanna get that piece constructed and put in, and then we're gonna do the swings so they're done properly. So it's not that, and it's not that we wanna remove swings so children can't, but when we apply for funding, they're gonna wanna know that that structure, the playground, is certified from a safety standpoint. And it's one of the things that our staff have gone through and we do now. But I agree with you, and the goal is to have swings there.
I hope so.
So I appreciate the comments at the beginning of the meeting regarding, about trying to address the major pothole at the parking lot and the post office, and also the appearance, the horrible shabby appearance of the portal entry. And then you've got, when you walk in the post office, you've got broken equipment there. So it kind of just continues all the way into the branch. But the other question that I would ask is has there been any conversation between the city and the local branch management regarding their postal carriers parking their vehicles way too close to stop signs on all these streets? Or turning from Columbus onto Archer, they park their vehicles like literally just feet off that intersection. And so if you're trying to turn onto there, you're almost immediately hitting a parked mail carrier vehicle. And if it's not there, then it's always like within, feet of the stop signs themselves. And you can't safely navigate those intersections, not for yourself, but for people who are oncoming traffic. And it is not just on Archer and Taft and McKinley and High Street that this happens. It's everywhere all over the city.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's just gotten worse and worse. It never was that way before. And I thought the Ohio state law required a certain distance in clearance of having no parked vehicles near a stop sign.
Federal vehicles, post office vehicles,
They're exempt.
they can do what they want.
That really stinks.
It does, it stinks.
We can have the conversation. I mean, I will say, sadly, we've had dialogue with them every single week since, and this started from the failure to replace the mailbox here, right outside the windows. This came up in December. And for those of you that wondered, we used to have a flag retirement box out there.
Yes, where is it?
That is in the lobby. The reason it is in the lobby, the post office removed this mailbox because it was damaged. And they said we'd have a new one there in the coming weeks. Well, after 2 months, we were emptying the flag retirement box every day because people put their mail in. They put their electric bill, their water bills, Christmas cards, and we mailed everything for the record. It was mailed. But we didn't know what else to do. And, administrative assistant in the city manager's office has called there weekly. And the story's changed, and it's changed, and it's changed. We escalated it, as the mayor said, to the next level. And we started including, there's potholes, the front entranceway. From the city standpoint, our properties, while we're not perfect, we believe we need to hold ourselves to a high standard. That's right in our historic district, right across the street from almost a $2 million park improvement. And I said this verbatim, this is an embarrassment.
It is.
And what they told me is that they're gonna move it up the chain, that there's open work orders. We still don't have a mailbox,
So
but
that
we're
was something
trying.
that those concerns about the appearance of that post office and perhaps even mail truck behavior, but maybe not so much that one, then that's fine. I'll send communications to my U.S. House of Representatives. Yeah.
We are working, but yeah.
I say one thing, there's conflicting law regarding post office vehicles. There's, and I think it's from the federal government, their rules, you must abide by the law, but then there's another law, unfortunately I don't recall the detail, so there's a conflict in the law. It seems like they should have to, at least the employee who has an Ohio driver's license should be subject to the same law as every other citizen. That's my opinion. But there's that's how it was told to me.
I keep riding the dead horse about the roads, but from Northfield Union to Forbes and Northfield to the Bedford Heights line, Solon Road, are those in the pipeline?
Northfield Road resurfacing, the state is giving us a tentative timeline of 28, 29.
That's down to a Forbes.
That's all of Northfield Road,
Okay.
through Bedford. Now, I will say that from our position, there's areas that we need to address. For instance, the one at the intersection of Solon and Northfield, we did do a temporary repair last year because it was just rolling the asphalt. That timeline, I would say, we'd like to get it done sooner. We'd like the state to do it sooner, but the reality is, I talk about that 20%, and we had to kick in 15% for Broadway. When ODOT comes in to do Northfield, they're gonna propose 20%. We'll try to negotiate that down. That's much longer than Broadway. It's a larger road. That probably is gonna, 2.5 and higher is what will be on us. we need to start properly planning. It's why our public works department was really like, when are you looking at Northfield? We need more than a year of planning purposes. And what they told us was tentatively 28, 29. So
Solon Road, we'll see.
Solon Road is a challenge. We know the condition of that. It's a county road. That, in order to be done properly, and we've had conversations with Cuyahoga County every year. I think I've sent them a letter every year going back 9 years.
Goes back about 20.
Yeah, the issue with that is a concrete roadway, and it needs to be a concrete roadway, given the bus traffic as well as the waste haulers. I think it's Waste Management Code, or?
They all use it, they all go down there.
They all go down Solon. So to turn around and do it with an asphalt road, yeah, it'd be great, but it's gonna be destroyed in less than, it's not smart. Spending, not being smart financially. We did a quote that we had our engineers put together, and I think to resurface that roadway concrete the way we believe it should be is about $3.2 million. What we are hoping for is, being that it's a county roadway, there's a little bit of dispute on that as far as whose responsibility it is, but we would like to see Cuyahoga County submit a grant for issue 2 funds, and we would contribute a portion, like a matching dollar. And we've had those discussions, but have not applied yet. But it is a very poor road, we know that. We're trying to figure out what funding source we can use to address it, because, and again, I don't want to criticize other municipalities, but I think to do that roadway asphalt, it's not proper planning, and you're gonna be right back there in less than a decade, and you do it, we do it the right way, and I think it should be concrete, given those high trucks, bus routes, the waste haulers in those.
This might sound asinine or crazy, but is there a program for curb repair?
No, unfortunately.
With the street repair, it goes with that. You didn't have one, then Dot, yeah.
I was just wondering if they were gonna fix the corner of McKinley and Avery and Bridge tore up looking for, I guess, water in the line, and there's no sidewalks there. They tore them up. It's horrible. It's right that corner.
Kinley and Avery, okay.
Yes.
Enbridge will have to fix it, I'll
Yes.
touch base with it.
Okay.
Yeah, they were just out today fixing, final paving on one on Columbus. Because again, the asphalt companies just
Right.
opened up.
Right.
Just as a thought, while we're thinking about the post office, could you take a look at Walgreens, because their corner is trash, weeds, and high grass. And I want to just mention to everybody about the community gardens in the back of Central School. I don't know if people know that you can plant vegetable gardens back there. And if anybody wants to get in touch with the overseer of that, I have her phone number. And then I just wanted to mention that the Garden Club is having a plant sale May 16th and 17th.
Good plug, Dot.
You're all invited.
This is our commercial for the evening. Yes.
Do you have the location on Archer Speed Table?
I don't even know, but they know. The people are gonna still know.
With all the potholes, do they need that?
Yeah.
You had deep potholes on Archer. and
Maybe-
put the
maybe we
sweep
shouldn't
on
fix them.
tap. Yeah, solves 2 problems and it doesn't cost them.
Answer that question, huh?
Further down before the turn, I think is where it is.
I haven't seen the plots yet on where they're at. That's why we hire good people to figure out exactly where they should go. Between the police and the service department, yeah. They've done the studies on where they should go. Anybody else? You just had one.
No, I should.
Oh.
Like everyone else.
when the Cleveland Metro Parks is going to build that multi-season shelter nearby our park?
So they had, I have to go back to the agreement, I thought it was 8 years from when we gifted them the property. If they didn't build it by that timeline, they have to pay the city the value of the land that we gifted them. And at the time, the value was, I think it was like $400,000. Now that was, I think we're 3 years into that now, and they put together their Bedford Reservation, they updated the master plan. They gave us some, we met with them and they had their initial drawings of their first phase. They're gonna increase the trails there. They had showed us that, and I believe they applied for state funding for the structure. So some of that is, they're gonna wait for those, but I'm pretty confident, I mean, they're gonna build it. They're gonna build it.
I just have a question. During the winter, when they do the plows, all the patch on, Taft was coming up, so it's on the tree lawn, and I've been picking it up. The trash company said I can't put it in the trash cans. How do I get rid of it?
Put it back in the hole and drive over it.
He said it.
Put it in a bag and put it in your garbage can. Yeah. Or if it's too large, call us, we'll pick it up.
What was the question?
Some of the pieces are like this.
Well, we don't want you to pick those up, we'll come get them, just let us know they're there.
The question was, she has broken asphalt that was, the plows had kicked up during the plowing and trying to get rid of them, and Kimball said she couldn't put them in the trash. But
How would they even know?
Right.
Because he saw
They
me
don't get
picking
out
them
of the
up.
truck. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah, the list.
How much memory does your phone have?
Is the battery dead yet? Yes, ma'am.
This question is about our downtown. So one, first commendation, especially for the square and for the downtown, that the work that Billy Dahl does is phenomenal at making the appearance of our city and on Broadway and in the park look phenomenal. He does an outstanding job and really deserves recognition for that.
He does a great job, thank you.
And also, I mean, down at the cemetery, they do a very nice job in the cemetery as well.
Thank you.
So it's appreciated. The question I had is about the downtown though. We're having more and more storefronts that are empty. So is there any prospects of some more businesses going in? Is there any prospects of a restaurant
That's a
opening in
daily
Bedford anytime
challenge.
soon?
Yeah. And Jen works on that constantly. It's just hard to do it. I mean, we're trying to attract people, and there's 3,000 other cities that are trying to attract the same people. We think we have an advantage because we got an actual downtown and stuff like that, but Jennifer works on that tirelessly, and also to help retain businesses so they don't leave. It's a constant battle.
So there is, I mean, I spoke with a business owner who's been in the area. She is looking to relocate. She actually chose our downtown because of the small town feel. She's actually signing a long-term lease. It's a good business, good addition to the downtown. So we have those conversations. We've had conversations with property owners. I will say there have been, over the last few years, 3 of the large buildings have sold. And not for a bad reason. It was the one building, I think it was in the family's name for 70 years. And, you know, mom and dad passed on, the kids are all over, they don't want it, and they've sold it. And we've met with the new owners, had discussions, what would they like, you know, what would we welcome. So we've had, you know, positive discussions like that. There's also been some eye-opening discussions. I will say a similar situation. Gentlemen, new owners came forward and said, listen, I just wanted, we're remodeling the upstairs, there's apartments, they have not been touched in, I think he said like the 70s. But he was concerned that we were gonna hear, there's a new owner and they're kicking everybody out. He goes, we're not kicking them out, we're making improvements, but the rent hasn't changed since the 70s. He had said there was a one-bedroom apartment that people were paying, and they were there for years, they were paying $200 a month. And he goes, so we have to make change, we're gonna invest. But, and sure enough, we got calls, someone bought our building, they're kicking us out. Well, you can't find anywhere to, so we've had productive discussions like that. And some of that has been good because there's some investment. The one other piece I will add that John was able to, I guess, to promote our town. Cleveland State, their College of Urban Affairs, they look to do a capstone project every year for their graduate students. Many of them students they have full-time jobs. They work for planning and development in the city of Cleveland. They work for the West Side Market. They work for all of these, but they're getting their masters. And they were looking at a project that we had pitched, looking at our historic district, looking at the zoning, looking at the guidelines, looking at incentives, all of these things, the strategic land purchases that the city has acquired. We attended many of the classes just to sit back and listen. They had someone from historic preservation, so they're going to be giving a final presentation to the city. And the idea is for inner ring suburbs with a downtown, with an asset like ours, that it could be used as a model if Maria or another community would like to use this. So we're excited about what that looks like. There's some things that we need to look to change as far as our zoning. We go after grant dollars. We just finished a grant last year to try to assist the small businesses for storefront improvements. Sometimes it's frustrating because not everyone takes advantage of it. There's some good businesses downtown and they have the means and they're like, I didn't feel like doing a new sign. And it's like, well, update the sign. Like, there's free money out there. But it's always, I think small business is tough. We get it, it's tough. And I think it's also, there's things down there that sometimes, we often forget or not know that's down there. There's a couple of neat small shops that you'd be surprised, so take a look at it, support them.
Yes.
This is just a note, if the city wanna make some money. Like I said, I just moved here, and I'm always traveling off of Warrensville, going east up Rockside to Northfield. And it's a no turn on red when you're turning south. Every time I'm sitting there, persons are blowing their horns for me to turn, and they go around me. And there's a driveway when you go around before that building, coming out of, you should sit your officers there, they would get a lot of tickets for people turning on that light. But it scares me because the way the world is today, and persons are blowing at me to make the turn, and I'm not making the turn, then they go around me and make the turn.
And that's just,
That's
the way
why
people are,
cops should be
won't take
sitting. As soon as they
responsibility.
make the turn, you can get them.
Yeah.
Make the city the money.
Has anyone done, and I have no idea on this, this is for the police force, like the cost analysis of speed cameras as opposed to like, I'm all for paid positions and like actually having boots on the ground people, but as more of like, to that point, like a passive income aspect, how much do those things run? Is that ever been looked at as a potentiality in places?
So
some people can stare daggers at me because they hate those things, but it's like, you can't have eyes everywhere all the time, so in those high-risk areas, has that ever been?
Yes, when that first came out, it was discussed. I will say, and full disclosure, over the last 12, 15 months, I'm not sure if something's changed, but obviously it was frowned upon on the state level. We receive, I don't know what the number is, Jen, local government fund, $300,000 a year the state provides us in local government fund. Well, as kind of a deterrent for communities that just wanted to just do speed cameras, they said, okay, if that generates, hypothetically for Bedford, if we generated $150,000 in speed camera fines, they were gonna deduct it from our local government fund.
Wow.
So it would make absolutely 0 sense for Bedford. And again, from a full disclosure and transparency, I have not researched it again in about 12, 15 months. But I had a memo put together. We looked at all of the communities that had the speed cameras, how much money they generated, and then knowing what we bring in every year, what the state provides us in local government funds, it wouldn't make sense from a monetary standpoint.
Sure.
Mr. Representative, would you like to say a few words?
Don't give polish to the mic, no. Just to answer your question right, the state does frown with that type of stuff, technology, and then also you have to have an officer sitting there, and so you have to weigh all that stuff. But I do want to say this, right before I came here, I came from Maple Heights. Mayor Blackwell, she was also doing her meeting. And I'm hearing the same concerns, almost like the exact same questions they had in Maple that you are having in your community. What I will say is this, and as we talk about the local government fund, your mayor, your service department, your police department, and all of them have to deal with half of the money that you had before and still bring all these services to your community. So I commend everyone on the dais and your mayor and everyone else who's here bringing those services. I heard all the compliments that you have. And so I encourage you to keep on working with your mayor, his staff, and encouraging them what they're doing. Lastly, I'll just say this, we're also in the process of the budget. And it's a horrible budget, I'll just put it that way, I voted no. And as we talk about things that we talk about in the community, have you talk about playgrounds, as we talk about education, as we talk about roads. One of my biggest things I voted against it for was that we're giving $600 million for a team that won 3 games. But we're underfunding education, we're underfunding libraries, we're underfunding so many things when we talk about the roads, local government fund. So I need you all to start getting active when it comes to the budget. It's in the Senate now. They need your voice. They need your voice. And I've seen them two down the state. We have ran into each other. We've talked with each other. But we need the citizens now to start getting active. As you know, there are so many things in the budget. I can sit here and tell you we're underfunding when it comes to Medicaid. We're underfunding when it comes to any children's lunch and everything else. They want to put a public database for the women in Ohio to have abortions, a public database online. It's in the budget. So if you have abortion in Ohio, a public database with your name, address, and phone number is in the budget. And so it is a horrible budget. I need you all to get active. I need you all to get engaged. I can keep on going on, but I do want to take this time and commend everyone here, your council people as well, your staff, your mayor, and everybody else, because I'm telling you, the same problems you're having. I represent the south side of Cleveland, Garfield, Maple, Bedford, and Bedford Heights as well. And everywhere I go, these mayors are trying to do the best, and they are doing the best in the districts I represent with the little bit that we give. So I just want to say thank you for that. If you need me, I'm Rep Brewer across all social medias. I can give you my name and contact number after we leave. But anything that is with state issues, I can help you with as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're getting close to 9 o'clock, so I want to respect your time. But then we get through it and we can get our seats. But again, thanks for being here, but I'm going to give the councilman a last comment here, and since Jeff went first, you can go first on this time.
Thank you for coming out such a nice night, because I know everybody had other things that they could have been doing outside and taking care of their property, etc. But, and I'm glad to hear that we will have swings. I'm gonna have to get a t-shirt made up, because I survived the Taft swings for 50 60 years, and I swing on those, not to mention the jump on and off the tank that used to be in that park. So I think it's good, we shouldn't bubble wrap the kids too much.
That cheap burner slide needed to go. That
Yeah.
little slide baking in the sun.
Yes.
And I think, was it you mentioned, so you mentioned about the top lot at the end of Cowles?
I'm still
The Church
figuring
of the
out.
Master?
Yes.
It's the top lot over there. And I was going door to door relatively recently talking to people, and one of the residents said, see, there were teenagers, yeah, there was tape, caution tape wrapped all around it, and the teenagers were still going through that. So hopefully they did get that repaired, and that brought up another issue that I mentioned at the last council meeting. But anyway, and if you live between Bartlett and Northfield Road in the apartments,
No, a big, giant gray house, bright yellow door.
okay. I'm gonna have to visit that house because I haven't found it yet.
At night you won't see us, but during the day it's,
It's before the church.
yeah.
It's before the church finish.
Yeah, you can't miss the door, and I've been meaning to stop by there. I see
So
you.
if you're heading east on Columbus,
Oh,
it's
Col-
it's on
Columbus.
oh, on Columbus, okay. I was thinking when you said Bartlett and Northfield, I'm thinking over on by
No,
Roxbury.
I'm
Okay, gotcha.
caddy corner to the soccer
Okay.
fields.
Well, glad to have you aboard too.
Jeff?
No. Thanks for coming out, and I'm sure my wife's gonna kill me, but you made my day, thank you.
Take her out twice on Saturday.
That's
There
right.
you go, yeah.
That's a flower.
Thank you very much for coming.